Hi guys, this is Amalia, and this is like the sixth time I'm trying to film this video because it's a loaded topic, and I also don't want to come across saying anything offensive or wrong. But let's get started and dive right in. So today we are talking about the very contested show within the Orthodox world, My Unorthodox Life. It took me a while to want to make a video about this after spending a little bit of time watching the show. Granted, I have not watched the full season. It was honestly kind of painful for me too, hence I didn't. And I just wanted to kind of respond to it as someone who still lives within the Orthodox community, gets a lot of fulfillment from being part of the Orthodox Jewish community, and just looking at the show, how it makes me feel. Basically, the first thing, and why I think this is such a touchy topic that I want to start with, is saying that the story of Julia Hart, the matriarch of the family that the reality TV show focuses around, is not what I'm judging. Here. I really understand that everyone has a different experience with their personal life. It doesn't only relate to the Jewish community and what their mental health needs at the time, and their personal relationships within a marriage, within their relationships to their community, their neighbors, their peers, etc. And so I really think it's important to not cast judgment on the individual people on the show. As for me and my experience just looking at the show overall, I think one of the first things that struck me was simply how I'm kind of tired of Netflix making this type of show. Other streaming platforms I've noticed have a slightly better job portraying the Orthodox Jewish community. I still don't see enough of it. Amazon Prime, for example, has a few really, I would say, cute films about the Orthodox community. They're not all the most accurate, but and they have a few reality like documentaries and reality TV shows, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Again, not everything's the most accurate there, but plenty of them center around people who are still in the community and living a happy, fulfilled life. And that's what I think is important, and what I felt was lacking in My Unorthodox Life. What I felt was lacking was the failure to share both sides of a complex story. We have a lot of shows on Netflix in particular, and I am calling out Netflix a little bit because I feel really hurt by Netflix, and I feel like a lot of the time I don't get fair representation there. We have a lot of shows like Unorthodox, My Unorthodox Life. I think it's called The Awakening of Mutty Friedman Greenberg. I'll look up the name. Etc. There's a large array of shows about breaking orthodoxy, per se, on Netflix. And yet, I think the one show I can think of that portrays an Orthodox family is Shtisel, a show about a Haredi Orthodox community in Israel, which is the farthest thing from what many Orthodox Jews are. And even though that show portrays the community itself in a fairly positive light, there's nothing particularly though it's a drama and the characters go through complex arcs, there's nothing inherently wrong with the community, and I'm perfectly pro making dramas about the Orthodox life, because like any people, everyone has struggles. I'm not looking to make a perfectly perfect view, but I'm just over that being the only representation. One of the main reasons that Chava and I founded this channel was to just have a form of media where other young Orthodox Jewish girls could see themselves in front of the camera. And especially on YouTube, I felt it myself as a teenager that I watched so much on YouTube, and that was one of the main media platforms I was taking in, and yet I never saw anyone like me making videos. And so we decided together to do something about that. But that's what we can do on a personal level. But I think on a much broader scale, what needs to be done for Judaism, and I would also say for other religions, because I see that unfortunately movie culture is also at times a secular culture. And so most movies are made looking into a religion, and most of the time they're not really getting grasping the full complexity of characters that come into play within those groups. And especially in My Unorthodox Life, I felt even more so in terms of the personal characters. I felt that frequently Orthodoxy was referred to as fundamentalism. And despite the fact that at one point I believe Julia Hart says, I have no problem with modern Orthodoxy, a lot of what she was describing also dealt with modern Orthodoxy. And even if it wasn't only dealing with modern Orthodoxy, I don't think all Orthodoxy is fundamentalist. What's interesting, though, is I think I take issue from both sides, because on the one hand, we have Julia Hart and the characters on the show talking about fundamentalism as the scary group, and then in watching a lot of commentary on My Unorthodox Life, I saw one comment really struck me from an Orthodox Jew, and I don't think he meant it in a negative way, but he commented, what she's calling fundamentalism, we call normal life. And that's not, in my mind, a good, in my personal view, a good defense, in the sense that I don't think, I understand what he was trying to say, but I don't think it's true. Judaism is about, and what my Judaism is about, is living a balanced and healthy life where I'm connected to God, I'm connected to my religious beliefs, and I would argue it's the farthest thing from fundamentalism. From both sides of this of the spectrum, both from the side that's only seeing Julia Hart's view of Orthodoxy, and the view that many Orthodox people are portraying in response to Julia Hart and this TV show, I find both problematic. Because what we have coming from the Orthodox side in many cases is a real genuine care to defend the community. And when we defend the community, we want to say everything's perfect, everything's beautiful, we never aren't supportive of anyone, everyone's welcome, etc. And in many instances, I think that's true. But like any community, like any part of the secular world or secular culture, like any other religion, I think there are plenty of instances where we fall short and are still working on it. And what I want to say, and that side of things, and to the show My Unorthodox Life, is we are still working on a lot of things. But you know what? The world is working on a lot of things. And I am very proud to be part of the effort of trying to work on them in my individual life. I worked for many nonprofits throughout high school that really helped with real issues we are dealing with in the Orthodox community. I think sometimes we're not accepting enough of diverse Jews. I think sometimes our education isn't high enough in all schools because they're smaller schools. When we talk about women's rights and they talk about women's rights and Judaism on the show, I think there are places where we really could get better. The same way, frankly, when I look at a secular newspaper, I'm like, wow, there are places the secular world could still really need to get better too, in terms of our treatment of women. But with that said, I don't like when either voice is one-sided. So on the one hand, I'm perfectly happy for Netflix to have a show like My Unorthodox Life, but I also, Netflix, come to me. I will make the show My Orthodox Life with you happily. I hope my husband's okay with it, but I'll be down for the show. Give me a call anytime. But aside from me, I think there's plenty of interesting and diverse stories to tell within the Jewish world. For example, actually, as a child, I was in a movie called Arranged. I'll link it in the description. It's an incredible film about a Jewish woman and a Muslim woman who become friends, though some of the content, I will say, is a little dated because it was made in the early 2000s. I definitely think it's a worthwhile watch and portrays Orthodoxy well because there are Orthodox members on the staff of the film. In addition, I've seen countless on YouTube, which I think is really a blessing. YouTube's really a blessing in terms of getting the story of Orthodox creators out there and Orthodox people with interesting stories, because that's where I find most of my information about people within the Orthodox world who have a really unique experience to share. I'll link some of their channels down below. I'll also name them here: Jar of Fireflies, Kol Isha, some of these channels are more geared towards the world, like the secular world or the non-Jewish world, and some are geared towards people within the Jewish world. But I think all of them are interesting to watch, and we're having people come from different backgrounds. Netflix, do better, please. And that's basically all I have to say for this video. Please let me know if you watched my Unorthodox Life, how you felt about the show, and yeah, just your overall comments down below. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I didn't offend anyone with my comments. I really am just trying to make this video to talk about the emotions I feel when I'm underrepresented on TV and in movies, and other people like me are underrepresented. And yeah, so bye. Please comment, like, do all that stuff down below. Amalia here, and I just wanted to clarify that as I was editing this video, I noticed that many times throughout the video I used the term Jewish world to refer to the Orthodox Jewish world, and I just wasn't comfortable with that myself, because of course there are so many different groups within the Jewish world that you can classify as the Jewish world, whether it be conservative, reform, totally unaffiliated, etc. They're all Jews, and I just didn't want to exclude anyone from that definition. I meant to say the Orthodox Jewish world, and I'm sorry if my language offended anyone.